My name is Sonja Howard. I'm a creature artist and I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 12. For me, autism is such an intrinsic part of who I am that I often find it difficult to sort of define specific traits that are like, oh yes, that is autistic. But sort of it ends up more to do with my hyper-focus and my drive and the special interests that sort of compel me to pursue things that other people probably wouldn't think to pursue. Like the hyper-focus that allows me to spend 8 hours digging through piles of bones to turn them into new creatures. And the drive that, like, when I did my debut exhibition of a bunch of skeletal creatures, instead of just making a bunch of skeletal creatures, I built a whole world around them where they had like theoretical behaviors and diets and environmental impacts and like taxonomies. Like I spent 4 hours scrolling through the internet trying to find Latin names to apply to these weird little dragons, just because it was what sort of compelled me forward. So it's sort of in two facets. So I have my skeletal creatures where I take the ethically sourced bones of ordinary creatures like rats and mice and sparrows, and I combine them into dragons and griffins and other sort of fantastical creatures. And then I have an inorganic version of that where it's fake fur and clay to make these fluffy little creatures, such as this little guy here. And build worlds around them. I've been selling them online since I was in high school and then moved into more the film industry side of things. So some of both examples can actually be seen at Weta Workshop Unleashed if you're particularly eagle-eyed. So my version of stimming is drawing these intricate patterns while I'm listening to things, and it helps sort of ground me and aid me in focusing, which was very much not understood or appreciated in high school when I'm just sitting here doodling and it looks like I'm not paying attention, but that's actually what's enabling me to focus on what's going on in the classroom. And it's further echoed through my other work where you'll see in my sculpting style, it's all these like swirls and repeating patterns throughout all of what I'm doing. And the other sort of more comedic thing is I had a verbal tic throughout high school, which of all things was the word pineapple, which I would just randomly say in any given moment, and led to some really unfortunate gifts from neurotypicals who just thought that I was obsessed with pineapples. And suddenly my house was invaded with like pineapple mugs, pineapple prints, pineapple shirts, pineapple doormats. Who gives a teenager a doormat? And it was just the most ridiculous thing. I was like, okay, for the sake of my sanity, I have to try and unlearn this behavior. My God. For me, the best thing is definitely the drive and the hyper focus that I get from my special interests. It feels just like a fire inside of me that propels me forwards. And if I don't let it do that, then it burns me up alive. So I really have to keep interested and focused and driven to discover new things and try out new art forms and push everything further and further. Generally, people can't tell that I'm autistic. So when they find out, I'm often met with sort of a degree of confusion where you see like the cogs ticking in their head where they're like, you're not Sheldon. What? And you sort of have to like explain it through, and it became this sort of frustrating thing. And so I'm so used to masking it that there's often times when I can't really tell where the mask ends and I begin. But then you meet fellow neurodiverse people and you're like, hey, you too? Oh yeah. You know, when people do that, oh, it's so annoying. And oh, you know it. And it's just fantastic. And as I've grown up, I've really begun to appreciate why visibility matters so much, so that people out there who are neurodiverse and people who are neurotypical get a greater understanding of all the different kinds and shapes and forms that it takes out there, and can sort of get a bit of an understanding and a bit of acceptance and empathy towards people that are different and how their behavior impacts them and how to make a more accessible environment for everyone. For me, it's really just about listening to understand and knowing that you're not always going to get it right, but you need to listen to what the other person needs or observe what they need if they're unable to tell you, to help sort of bring about a more accepting environment where people do feel comfortable stimming or with their varying degrees of dysregulated behavior, that, you know, they're not hurting anyone doing that behavior. It might make you uncomfortable, but it's the only thing that's keeping them sane right now. And sort of like fostering a greater understanding of that in the general public so that everyone can be a little bit more accepting and a little bit more comfortable within the world. So one experience, for example, that I found quite challenging is I was involved in setting up, well, I was advising in a film festival that was going on. And we had gone through all these measures of making sure everyone knew to put trigger warnings on the doors and like let people know when things were going to get loud, and it was super organized. We had a safe space. Great, what could possibly go wrong? And within the first sort of like 5 minutes of it opening, the MC runs through playing really loud music and screaming, and everyone carries on and goes wild. And I just sort of go, oh no, bolt out of there as quickly as I can, and ended up hiding for pretty much the rest of the day in a little closet under the stairs that didn't even have a light bulb. I had to go and find a head torch and tie it up to the pipe above me and just sat and read. And I was completely nonverbal, couldn't communicate to anyone beyond text to go, yeah, I'm fine, but I'm not participating in this anymore, I'm sorry. And it was just such an unfortunate event because it could have been so great and it would have worked so well for a lot of people if they just remembered to brief this MC about like the measures that they'd taken. So it's really just a matter of making sure that everyone knows what's going on and thinking about things before you do them. Because if you'd literally popped out and gone, I'm about to be loud, it'd be like, sweet, earplugs in, I got this. But that wasn't what happened that day. When I first got my diagnosis, it was after a massive cyclone had hit our town, and suddenly I was having really, really bad anxiety issues. Like the school had been like half destroyed and stuff, and I was, you know, hiding in my parents' bedroom every night because I was just not doing okay. And then going through the diagnosis process and learning that there's actually a name for it, there's reasons for my behavior, I'm not mad. And then relaying this information to my friends who are like, oh, that's really cool. Like, because, you know, kids often don't know to be bigoted about these things. They're just like, ooh, that's interesting. We can poke at that. We can be superior right now and go, oh, we'll explain this to you and stuff. And it was this we got to learn about it as a group and sort of discover the sort of diversity within that. And it was such an amazing experience to have that really supportive group of friends at that really vital stage.